Yeah, if I wouldn't have found powerlifting in 2013, if I wouldn't have started this, I would definitely, I'd be behind bars or 6 feet under. I guarantee that. I was on a pretty hellish path. Finding powerlifting gave me a good priority to want to do better. If you do it and work on yourself and progress outside of powerlifting, you'll go a lot farther, and it feels a lot better to stand on your own 2 feet.
Sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. It's interesting, right? Because think of all the lifters that you've seen come through.
Oh yeah.
But then how frequently they think that the next shoe is the world record breaker shoe.
Yeah, brings you back to what Louis said.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
$200 shoes and a 10-cent squat.
Yeah. What other things like that do you see with newer lifters screwing up? Wraps, for instance, are they jumping between different wraps too much?
God, yeah, wraps and sleeves.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong; those enders are great.
Yeah.
But if you don't know how to squat, they can help you none. Especially with wraps, guys with wraps all the time, they just don't know how to use them. I guarantee if they took the wraps off, they'd squat just the same.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to utilize that spring to where, or even the wrap in itself to where. The whole point of the wrap is to keep your tendons and ligaments in the same exact spot they are when your leg's straight. So if you're already getting wrapped with your knee bent, you're losing art from the jump.
Yeah.
The horses in front of the carriage, they're behind the carriage no matter which way you go. I see it all the time. It's just something, those little things that the kids don't try to pay attention to or soak up on. It's just, you pay attention to those little tiny things. And if the socks with the shoes too, even like I was saying with Donnie, like, that helped me a ton too. My foot doesn't slide at all. I'm stuck inside that shoe. So the little things that just pay attention.
Yeah. How do you cycle your wraps through the training cycle?
Oh, I got one pair from the jump. I get a pair and I use those until the meet day. Meet day, I get a brand new pair. And then usually that pair that I wear for the meet go with me for the next cycle.
Yeah.
And then get a brand new pair for meet day. Yeah, usually, I mean, I can tell with those, like Pioneer's got the Phantoms, when those are too aggressive. They're cast-like, but they got a little spring, but they're too aggressive for me. And then Matt and Tom Callis came out with another pair. They're a little lighter on the cast, but they give me the perfect spring.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just exactly what I found have worked really the best for me.
That's some super old school shit right there, because that's how I used to do it when I was training for meets in high school.
No shit.
Yeah. So
awesome.
you would have, and I would have, because they weren't as good. So I'd have two pair, right? The first 8 weeks, the second 8 weeks.
Oh, perfect.
And then a brand new one for the meet.
Yeah.
And then sometimes a third attempt one, if it was needed, right? So there would be two, for the meet.
Yeah.
If they were sometimes it was wrapped too tight back then. You had like one good
break out of
one good hit out of it. Then it was about done. But then the meat ones, the original meat ones, just either got tossed, or the original training ones would get tossed, and then the meat ones become the training ones.
Of course.
And, just continues through.
Yeah.
Then I get to Westside, we don't wear wraps until meets. So the same pair of wraps lasted a decade.
Of course.
Used like fucking 10 times or whatever it was.
Yeah. Hearing what I've always been the type of guy. Well, a little backstory on that. Seeing Grandick and all those guys go to the UPA meets when I was first starting, and then Frankel and all those guys too, really made me pay a lot more attention to the history of it.
Yeah.
And then I went out to Jimmy's place a couple times and trained with him and learned from him and kind of soaked up a lot of his knowledge. Never went to Frankel's place, but every time we got together at the UPA meets or back and forth between the Midwest, we always bullshit and share stories, either whether he was talking about Becca or, the old school training days, all that kind of stuff really helped me carry on to what you were saying earlier with the paying homage to the history of the sport. Just that kind of little stuff, means something to me.
Yeah.
With those guys and learning from them, when you brought up on the crew cast the other day with the crack and strippers, then my first thought was Panora. Like I was dying laughing, and then I remembered the stories about Dimmel too. So
So it just keeps going, and even before, right? The guys that and we're in the warm-up rooms of the meets I was going to were like Pacifico and then Louis and Steve Wilson and some of these other guys, and they were even Ed, was helping me in a warm-up room when I was fucking 19, 20 years old. He didn't have to do that.
Of course.
But he did, and it's kind of, and I think this thing still happen now, but it's just, and I wonder, and I think really hard sometimes, like, were they outliers too? What were the majority of the people assholes then too? But I just didn't pay attention because I wasn't that good. Because you got to get to a certain level to where you can see the things that we were talking about,
of course,
behind the curtain and all the other shit.
Right.
Because it's crazy because it's almost like powerlifting innocence. Because until you get to a certain point, man, it's just all it is. It's just the meat.
Yeah.
Like 8 weeks, 12 weeks of the meat. It's just the meat. Go to the meat, hit the meat, break some PRs, have a fucking good time, and then some of that gets a little lost. It's still there, but
being that naive, that would be a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
man. Just you're opening my mind all kinds of different ways to think about it. So
what is, and I think a lot of it's because we let it in.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's nothing outside of being that naive that's going to make a difference to your own training or total.
Exactly.
Absolutely fucking nothing.
100%. Yeah.
Outside of, there's a caveat, outside of you need to communicate with other lifters and know where they're going to compete, especially today.
Yeah.
Right. Before you knew like the APF seniors or the
big meets,
ADFPA or you knew the big meets, there were seniors and there's a world. So you kind of knew.
Of course.
You guys are in a weird spot where you don't really know.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
And the federation's fucking changed too. Like where you're going to go is going to change too.
Yeah. I was that way in like the first 5 or 6 years. I wouldn't leave the monolift and want to. Scared of the walkout, watching Brandon's stuff. At the beginning of powerlifting, Brandon was kind of one of the idols because he was the bigger name. He was super heavyweight, and I was looking up to it. Then watching what he did at the Fit Expo, that really kept me steered clear away from the walkout. And then Ed was one that kind of talked me into it. He's like, walking out in sleeves is easier than walking out with walking out with wraps is easier than walking out with sleeves. And I'm like, okay. And then I did it. And then I was like, USPA maybe not that bad. And then of course everybody's like, oh, if you don't do a UPA meet or USPA meet, it doesn't count. USPA's only have credential judges, and everybody sucked their cock for so many years. And it's like, okay, now look at them.
Well, it's all bullshit. Yeah. I mean, and that's why, I try hard with the people that I'll communicate with to just get them to ignore all the noise. Because it is. Because at the end of the day, is the all-time world record being recognized?
Right.
People can debate about if it is or isn't, but is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fuck the debate. Is it? Okay, so where is it being recognized? So then you go wherever you're going to be pushed to be your best.
Yep. 100%.
Right? So pushed to be your best by maybe John showing up, or somebody's going to push you on formula.
Exactly.
Or where you can have the best, be your best.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not that hard.
No, 100%. And I feel like that was kind of one of the reasons with the hybrid meet with 2606. It's 3 hours away from home, so I got the travel stress off of me. That was kind of nice. But then I also got the pressure from Mika. Mika was pushing me, and then John was there, so I wanted to keep up with him. Hey, John opened with the deadlift world record, and I watched him do it. He opened with his deadlift world record was like, I think it was like 815 or something like that. And my opener was 815 too. And right when I saw John do that, I went and told him I was like 860. And I took the world record right back from Peter. Then on my opener, I was like, yeah, John can do it. I can do it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, 100%. It's definitely, where is it recognized and where can you be pushed to the next level of the competition? Yeah. That's been tough the last couple of years for me, is finding the push. So I had to break it down into formula and then go with John and stuff like that. But now I feel like there's a couple kids that'll be coming up and they'll be able to, light a fire under my ass.
Yeah, see, it's. I've always said I have no say on what's going on in the sport now because I'm no longer in it, right? So my voice is muted. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But the one thing, as I'm going to now give an opinion, right? The one thing that fucking has bothered me about all this formula stuff is, first off, like, totals don't matter anymore. That just boggles my brain.
Took the prize out of the total. Yeah.
Well, it took the prize out of the weight classes.
Yeah.
Right. So forget the total. Right. So if you got a pro meet and there's 4 divisions, and let's say that division starts in the 220 class. Who the fuck wants to be 220?
Be 275. What?
Yeah,
exactly.
all right. So that's going to, over a period of time, that's going to hurt the 220 division big time.
Take it all away.
It's going to hurt it because, and the totals are going to be, and it's all going to be broken down because of that, to where, and I see the side that says we can pay the guys more if there's only 4 divisions, right? But you're not paying really a whole fucking lot, you know, outside of one person, which happens to be you, right? So it's, you know,
oh darn.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it happens to be you, but outside of that, nobody's even making enough money to cover their costs to get there.
No, 100%. Yeah.
Where, and they're trying to like create rivalries, where but you create one rivalry, maybe you and John, maybe one other person, one rivalry for whoever's going to win this division. Where there used to be, you could go to a fucking senior nationals, and these guys are fighting for the super spot. This guy's fighting for the 75s. Granted, the meets are boring as fuck. We'll all admit that. But the only time it's not boring would be like on the deadlifts when shit's close and people are, you know, jockeying for positions. But you could see that in every weight class.
Yeah.
You know, and then that became something that this is actually interesting to watch. So they actually took out the part that's the most interesting to watch.
Exactly.
Reduced it to just one, which is based upon a formula nobody can fucking understand.
Yeah, or make sense of it. Yep.
Now, think about that for a minute. If the lifters can't make sense of it.
You got to get a special app to have the calculator to figure out what you're at. Because, like, even with Glossenbrenners, like, you have, that goes off your weight, and then you get a certain number, and then you got to divide it. It's like, none of us in the sport are that intelligent like to even go through that whole process.
No, like, but that, if the lifters can't fucking figure it out, but they're doing it to make the sport more popular, you think the fucking audience can figure this out? They're like, right? So say you're competing, like, and John's a great fucking lifter. I'll never take anything against him. He's fucking going to go down as one of the greatest of all fucking time, definitely. Right? But as a spectator that doesn't know any different, if you're competing with him, they're like, you lifted more weight.
Why don't you win?
How the fuck the little dude beat this guy?
Yes, exactly. You squatted 500 pounds more than him, and he still won? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, by 4. So let's just say this just happens to be on ABC Sports. Explain that one.
No kidding. Yeah.
You know, so it's just this fucked up thing that's, I never really understood.
100%.
You know, where, but I guess the way they're trying to balance it is they can give the best squat, the biggest squat.
That's
the
what
biggest
a lot.
stretch.
Yeah, I've noticed that. That's what a lot of directors are doing that now. It's where they're coming to me with the meet and want to do. Hey, we do this. We're gonna this much money for this for dots, but then we're gonna give this much money for biggest squat, bench, and deadlift. And it's like, okay, now you're making it worth it because I got a chance at this, but I'm guaranteed to walk away with this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And you got to take the hindsight. When I started, there wasn't money. Mm-hmm. In like these last 4 years, I've kind of made it about, okay, I got the world records, and then that's great and everything like that. But the last 2, it's just been like, okay, where can I go make the most cash? You know, this is a hobby. Let's make it a little bit more lucrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so what I would put out there to those powers that be in powerlifting, is that what they want the lifters to think?
Right. No.
Right.
Yeah.
So I see where you're coming from,
Yeah.
right? And I totally get it, and I'd be the same fucking way.
Yeah.
But is that what they want?
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So, now, if that's not what they want, but that's the impact of the decisions that they're making, then maybe they need to think a little bit harder.
Rethink over that.
of what their marketing plan is. You know, what the branding is.
Yeah. No, I get that for sure. And you look at like the American Pro. Yeah, they didn't hand out tons of cash, but they had a great production. Awesome meat. I know they're just trying to make it better and better every year. Mika's got great intentions for it, but sometimes a little bit too much they get overthought, and then the judging gets overlooked, and then the internet has something to say. So it's damned if you, damned if you don't type of situation.
Yeah. But the internet has something to say about
everything.
Wait till the Super Bowl's over and go online, right?
Oh, yeah. So I purposely have my flight Sunday night, so I don't have to watch the bullshit. I'll just see the last 10 minutes what I want to see anyways.
Exactly.
That's too good.
With the groups that you've trained with over the years, what's the one that stands out the most?
It's kind of, they're all pretty even. I mean, with Perfect Storm now, we had the higher level guys. and there was always higher level people coming to train with us. So that's got to be great. I did 2 years at XPF with 242er that got stellar under mediocre numbers, and those are some of the best training days I had as far as remembering wise, because you had to do it all yourself. It was on your shoulders. It wasn't somebody else screaming in your face, getting under you. And then the E&G days where we started in a garage and just being able to grow powerlifting myself, but then that gym together. It's my best friend that owns the place, so I had some more, I guess, input into that growth. My hands were in the wash with it. That meant a lot to me too. And to see where he's at now, running his own meets, running his own professional strongman shows, just having my hands in, watching my best friends flourish to where he was a guy working in a psych ward for minimum wage, didn't know where his life was going to go, dropping out of college to having a basement garage, and now he's hand over fist in the thick of it, doing the best thing for the sport and for his passion. That's pretty fucking satisfying to me as a person. That's just who I am. Like I said, with Perfect Storm, you're not going to find that. That gym, those guys, the owners, they fucking love powerlifting. They'll do, but Gary don't put up with no bullshit either. So you come in there trying to do anything that he doesn't like, it's get the fuck out of here, you know. Like, he keeps it pretty seclusive, which that's another thing a lot of guys can appreciate too. So they got good trainers in there that care about their clients, and that means something too. So just the crowd that we got, it's I never really thought that the training crew would make that huge difference, because I was bouncing back and forth so frequently. I couldn't ask for a better training crew than what I got now.
What do you think creates that, and what do you think keeps that?
The creating it is not having yes men, or I guess you could say people that just want to suck your dick for a tag on Instagram. You know, like they don't want to, but they're gonna drink a beer with you later and tell you what you should do or what you should know better by now. Those people that'll give it to you bluntly, but they're also gonna, tell you that your mom's fat too. They joke around and we're gonna have a good time, but we're also gonna be bluntly honest with you. And what keeps it is the camaraderie, to where we might not see eye to eye outside this gym, and we might not live the same exact lifestyles, but in the gym, I'm gonna make you the best person you can be. And that's what keeps it, I think, because a lot of people might not see that side of that person, to where like, oh, I don't like him because he does this. But in the gym, he makes me a better person, so fuck off. That's what matters to me. And even if it's not in the gym, I can see what he's doing outside the gym, and then I'm going to try to flourish off of that. So it's just, that's the type of person I am too. I think that's what keeps it. Everybody's winning. I think that's a big thing in the gym and out of the gym. If everybody's winning, then you're just going to keep moving forward, and that's what it needs to be.
With anything like that, there's always those that come in that don't last, and then so earlier you said it was ego, was a big reason why they don't last. What were some of the other reasons?
I just need the spotlight.
Yeah.
That and then.
You think they're going to find that though? I mean, if with the lifters that you have in there now, what spotlight do they think they're going to find?
Right. Yeah, I don't think they'll find it, but they'll go to the commercial gym and everybody will suck their dick because, oh, this is the best thing. They're the heaviest person in it. I don't know. Or they'll just be humbled. Yeah. And that's probably what it's going to take for them to get to be a decent training partner. You got guys that come in there all the time and they aren't fitting in our groove, to where you're loading the plates for the next guy, or you're asking what they need, or you're putting their rack height. Me and I used to joke around all the time, like, real friends, no real friends rack height. We'd always go, she was a 19 and I was a 27. Like, that's just the way it goes. And but like, you find those people that will like expect you to load the plates for them and shit like that, and eventually you just kind of give up on it. It's like, hey, you load your own fucking plates.
The videos you're squatting where she's running the monolift always made me laugh, because she's so stretched out. It makes it look like she's getting ready to dunk a basketball.
Or like when she does slam the rack, both hands go up.
It's like her feet come off the ground. Like she needs a booster or something funnier and shit. Is Joe in there much?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Joe's quite the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give Joe a lot of credit. That guy does not give up.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I'm glad he actually just recently went with Danny as far as the programming and training. I think that's going to help him a lot because Danny gets real deep into the muscle structure, muscle movement type things. That's what he does. So I mean, that's what Danny's very well known of. He's on the same lines of Trevor. So if you want an intelligent conversation, that's the guy to go with, not me. When it comes to that kind of stuff, Danny saved my life a couple times in meet day. But Joe,
No, you can't just say that. So how so?
25-18 after squats, I couldn't get my tendonitis to go away. I was in tears in the back room, and him and his girlfriend at the time released all my upper chest, and I was like a brand new person. Then with my piriformis not releasing, that has a lot to do with me driving. Danny's fixed me and taught me how to take care of that a lot more. Even as far as he lived with a chiropractor, Dylan, there for a little while too, and they'd always go back and forth. I'd say button heads, but using each other to bounce things off of. And Danny would tell me how to drive.
Yeah.
With my feet spread out, so I kept my glutes in a different angle and stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, Danny, it slowed me down. Even little stuff like that, just those cues that I've got off him. Life saving.
Yeah. So let's give him a proper shout out. So what's his full name?
Daniel Tinajero.
Yeah, and he is on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm actually scheduling him right now to be able to get on the podcast at some point in time.
Cool.
So
good.
That'd be a good. No, so getting back to Joe.
Joe Jordan. Oh man, he's since he moved back over to Ormond, the Daytona area. He was in CTX for a long time, so we passed by every once in a while. And I knew him down there. It was just the OG, the guy that never quits. You know, just gonna do it with broken parts one way or another. It's good to see his determination. It's good to see that he doesn't want to give up when everything's against him. It's really, and he's always learning. He just did a first raw meet in 20 years a couple months ago. You know, it's that little stuff like that is where there's still some good guys in the sport trying everything he can to keep pushing those numbers.
Well, that's setting his ego aside too.
100%.
You know, and that's going to help his multiply.
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time. There was a meet in Fort Lauderdale. It was actually the day that Peter took my world record. So December 2 or 3 years ago. He second attempt. He really wanted 10:36 as his third attempt, and his second was 10:03. And he's like, it didn't feel as good as it did. And I was like, Joe, just cut it in half. You wanted 10:36, you got 10:03, go 10:19. End up smoking it. It was great. He still thanks me today about that. So it's just getting everybody's minds together and making a better outcome. Joe's a good dude.
Now, it wasn't that long ago you started working with some people online.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I've always stayed away from coaching.
Yeah.
It was never really my thing. I don't say I stayed away from it publicly. I've always programmed David Raymond because I've known him for 6 years. He's a 165er out of Iowa. He's a great kid. I've always programmed him. I've always gave him Devontae. I've always done his programming to another kid out of Iowa. It's super strong. I never had a problem with that because we were friends. And then I felt like it was time for me to kind of break into opening my coaching to another person. Now, you can be the strongest person in the world and still be a horrible coach. And that was a big slap in the face when I first started this coaching, which would have been just over a year ago now. And a lot of people got a lot of fucking piss poor excuses. So, yeah. And in my mind, I have to, because my first response is, well, man the fuck up. But I know that that's not going to be taken very well. So it's been a rocky little road with different people I'm not directly in contact with constantly to where we're on a friendship level, I guess you could say. It's more of a coaching aspect. So.
Well, I'm going to assume that you have a vetting process because you don't have a whole lot of fucking time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I kept myself out at 5, and I've kept it in between 3 and 5 over the last year. Just because I don't want people to pay me. It's more on me with that number because I don't want to be paid for something that I can't give you my full attention and feel like you're getting something out of it. That's just me as a person. I have a little pride, I guess you can say, to where I feel like, oh, here's your cookie cutter program. Now piss off and I'll talk to you in 3 weeks or something. You know, that's irritating when I see coaches doing that kind of stuff to me, just being where I'm at. So that's why I was like, 5 tops, let's just cut it there. Tom Callis actually put it together. He does all the vetting stuff and all that stuff, and it worked out perfect. Tom, he's like, he'll text me, hey, got a client coming Monday, here's their background, here's their outlook, here's what they want to do, and it's great. The process they have is fantastic. That's Be Better. His company used to be Smart Strength, but now it's Be Better. And yeah, he really taken off with the coaching. And him and Jacob Ross, they've really taken off and thrown. I feel like they've thrown like a lot forward, kind of what Hybrid did. You know how they took it, but with Hybrid it was a little more template type stuff. With Tom and Jacob, it's more one-on-one, program specific. So it's been really good, and I was glad because I could still bounce ideas off of those guys where it feels like I'm still kind of learning.
Yeah. What outside of people making a lot of shitty ass excuses, you know, what are some of the other things that you've learned? Because a lot of dynamics are removed when it's online. We all assume that. Right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
But there's other dynamics that will expose themselves, where it's a different demographic than what you're going to see training with you in the gym.
Yeah.
Right. While they're still lifters, you can't fine-tune little things here and there.
Of course.
So you got to go more macro, I assume, more bigger level things.
Yeah, to an extent. And then I've also, another thing is to where if their technique isn't like to a T or where I want it at, having somebody else take weight off. Like if we're working up right around the 50% range, telling somebody, hey, we need to cut it to 25% and get your technique dialed in more, that's really hard for them to swallow. I actually had a kid a couple months ago who was like, well, I think I need to find a different coach. I'm like, that's fine. Okay, go waste somebody else's time then. And they can't accept like the weight issue. Like, I'm getting strong as hell, I love this, is great. I was like, okay, but let's cut your weight down and really hammer in that technique to where it's actually just a normal body pattern instead of something you're forcing yourself to do. And having people accept that, it's been pretty daunting over the last couple months. Yeah.
When with your onboarding process, how long are they committed for when they sign up?
Oh, it's month to month.
So it's month to month.
Yeah. But normally, like when they do the vetting type stuff, they'll put in there, hey, I want to do 6 weeks of off-season prep and then a 12-week peak. My meet is this day, so I get their meet day and just kind of go from there. So where we got, like, say we got 2 4-week blocks and then we got a 12-week peak, or if they're not really that high level, we'll have like a mini 4-week peak, a deload, and then the 12-week peak, just to get their body kind of in tune to where it is. I'm more linear, of course. I'm fully aware. So I've been around the block a couple times with the conjugate. Nothing against it, just not for me.
Yeah. Well, it's also what it's what you've come up with. It's what you've used. It's what you've mastered, right?
Yep.
So it's I keep repeating myself, but everybody needs to learn how to regulate their own training.
Exactly.
There's many different block styles that you can be able to run with that. But once you figure out that base and you master it, it's whatever you put out on paper, for 12 weeks, the base will be the same, but the application of what you actually do is going to be nothing close to what you put on that paper when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're trying to do with these clients that you're talking about, but it's really fucking hard, right? When they're only committed really for a month.
Right. No.
Where because techniques it's a huge thing. Yeah. Right? It's fucking the most important thing, right?
I will even say that was one of the things that I had. It was hard for me to deal with too.
Yeah.
Because I was when I first started, I was squatting around 700 and benching 450 and deadlifting 750, but I was like, everybody's telling me my technique's shit, and I'm like, well, I don't care. I'm close to squatting 800, so I get it, but then trying to get somebody else to get it, it's a whole nother story.
No, it's tough. Yeah. And if the technique is fucked up, I strongly believe that if they took 3 months and never squatted over 60%, but just worked technique, they'd break a PR after the 3 months.
Guaranteed.
Right?
Yes.
And by a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it just in seminars that, you fix somebody's technique, or you might have a visitor come down, right? So you guys have a visitor come down, you're all kind of working with their squat.
Of course.
Next thing they're breaking a PR by 100 pounds. They're like, what the fuck? And in your mind, you didn't get 100 pounds stronger.
No, you got better at executing.
Yeah, we just showed you how to execute it in a way that fits your structure, and holy shit. But it amazes me the number of people that won't buy into that. So it's like, okay, you want to just keep your technique subpar, and because getting stronger is hard.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to keep it subpar and just like get stronger by 30 pounds in that year, rather than fix it and put 100 pounds on
easily
in 3 months.
Exactly.
But they don't get it, And so that comes down to, what are you training for? Are you training for a total, or are you training for your ego?
Ego, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, because if you're training for your ego, we can do all kinds of different shit. Like,
go load that leg press.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where conjugate would be great. Let's do max effort shit. Just max out on stuff and make it a different thing all the time, so you never not PR.
Oh, that'd be great.
So that kind of plays into that with your own training. If it's not going where it needs to go, who do you call, or is that being worked out with the guys that you train with?
Little of both, but if I'm in a bad spot, I'll shoot the video to Ed.
Yeah.
He's always my first go-to. Ed's been a great friend over the years, and he's really helped me a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, if not him, or if he says something, I can go to Trevor too. Trevor's helped me out quite a bit. That's a great guy to have in your back pocket. I've been blessed with a lot of people that were willing to help.
When did you first meet Ed?
Well, he was friends with Jay and Boss. They were my sponsor. They were my main sponsor for a long time, until COVID kind of kicked them in the dick, and that's when I went to Live Large. But he was friends with them, so I want to say 15, 16,
all right,
around there. Yeah, and he knew of me, and he always said, hey, you're going to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
I was like, well, at least somebody believes in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he actually fixed my squat, got me to open up a lot more, really bounce into my hamstring and calves. And then
how so? What did he say? I mean, how did you know? First off, how did you know you needed to do it? And then what did he say?
I had a real tough time with my shins going over my toes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've heard you say it before, where you see 300-pound guys and they look like they're hitting death, but they're not, when they're assholes on the ground.
Yeah.
And I had a real problem time. That's one of the biggest things I took over from Multiply, was being able to control my shins a lot. Like, that was the best thing I got out of that whole experience. And Ed was the one that made me open back first. And then...
Explain open.
Hips break, knees still in line with toes, and then mid-hip is where my knees open harder and travel forward. So it's kind of like a geared squat, but my feet are a lot closer, and that's why I throw my knees out as hard as I can while still controlling that shift. That's where Ed held me accountable, and then I just I remember 705. I would, every chance I got, I would squat 705 and just hammer that open the asshole, sit back, and then clearly it paid off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the number that I would just sit at. And I did it for like 4 or 5 months, just dead nuts, just every chance I got. 705 as many times as I can to make it perfect. That's what I did. And then he helped, like I said, with the bench earlier. He's like, you work on your upper chest. That took off. And then, like, with my deadlifts, he's like, move your hands out 1/4 of an inch. Your lockout's going to be faster. Not saying that helped, as we talked earlier.
Yeah.
It needed it faster, but yeah, just those little things I can always count on. If I feel like something's off, shoot him a video.
How do you work on the mobility to be able to get to the deadlift, to get to the bar? Because that cannot be easy.
It's not as horrible, but I do have a problem with my knees running into my elbows. And I've had to start rolling again, which I got away from the rolling, but I feel like the rolling all has to do with timing. And if you can get that down, it's going to be perfect. Yeah, it's just putting 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound sack. That's more or less what that is. And then holding on to it, because with that kind of velocity coming out is where I tear my hands real good, real easy.
Well, the rolling brings up an interesting thing because that becomes an issue, a debate, right? Where sometimes I don't think you can even be involved in that debate unless you've ever been big enough that you have that problem.
Exactly.
You know, because sometimes there's really no other way. I don't give a fuck what anybody
Exactly.
says. You know, but for you going back to it, how do you gauge the timing of it for other supers that are trying to figure this out?
I just try to imagine ripping my kneecaps off of the bar. So when I feel that in line to where my knees are perfectly set, and I can't see because I'm normally looking dead forward or as up as I can, to where it feels like the bar's close enough to rip my kneecaps off, and then just launch. Is kind of where I try. Like for me, it would be kind of your forearms hitting the front part of your kneecap, I guess you could say. And it takes time and patience, because if you get it wrong and it's too far out in front of you,
you're fucked.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Or if it's too close, then you also have that issue of falling back on your ass too. So it's just damn near hit or miss. And it took a lot of it. I watched the shit out of, like the guy from Chicago. He did it all the time. The guy that owned Barbell Central, he would roll it. And then even JP Price or JP Carroll too, they both rolled it when they deadlift. I watched all those, just trying to get it all down. It's all about how much time and effort you got to put into it when you don't give yourself a choice. So,
yeah, exactly. And I've heard you say, I think it was in the 2005-ish range, had you continued that same path, you think you would be dead or in jail? Yeah. So.
If I wouldn't have found powerlifting in 2013, if I wouldn't have started this, I would definitely, I'd be behind bars or 6 feet under. I guarantee that. I was on a pretty hellish path, 27, making 6 figures a year, doing my union job. I had zero fucking worries. I had a Harley and a cavern for a nostril.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. That's how it goes. Yeah. That was my lifestyle at that time. And finding powerlifting gave me a good priority to want to do better.
Yes. But with that comes a certain aggressive mentality, I guess, and a certain, how do you resort not going back to that same mentality? Because you have the mentality that you're putting in the training, right? But if you see what I'm saying? I got arrested last January, Dave. It's not all. So it's not all, right? So for what?
Oh, some dude said the wrong thing to me at a bar about my wife. I wanted to hit him more than once, but it only took once. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
No,
wait. You're fucking 400 pounds.
Exactly.
So somebody's going to walk up to you in a bar? What the fuck? What did this dude say?
I know what it feels like to be inside your wife.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I swear to God.
What did he expect was going to happen?
Not that, I don't think. Yeah, and the worst part about it was when I hit him.
No, wait a minute. I got to process this fucking thing here for a minute.
Yeah.
Is he drunk?
We were, I had a couple beers in me, and he wasn't too smashed. But he wasn't blackout drunk, but he had a couple in him, and he's known for talking shit.
Yeah.
He was known well throughout the town for being the one that just ran his mouth the wrong time. Couldn't imagine with a 45-pound bar. I have a hard enough time with a 55. And I'll train with a Mastodon or the Sportscraft as much as I can because our gym's got them. But if I know the meat's only using a Texas bar, then I'll just stick with it. And I've had a couple guys like, oh, we can use this bar. It's bigger. And I'm just like, yeah, but this is what the meat's doing. So let's
For you, it's got to be a big difference, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, big time. When the first time was Big Dogs 2017 was when they were the Sportscraft bar. And Eric had told me about it before. That thing has zero give. That thing is pretty vicious. And at that time I was training in Kewanee in Illinois, and we just had a regular Texas bar. I didn't have any choice. There's a couple times where I went up to Barbell Central and checked out their bar and got to work with it a little bit, but I didn't get any time under it. But now it's just you gotta kind of find out what the meat's using and stick with that, because if you don't, that whip can crush you. I've got so decent. Josh Morris actually is the one that taught me how to use the whip on bench, to where you can actually get a good whip on bench if the pause is right.
How so?
On your when you break your elbows and you're right about here, and of course I'm not a big sinker, and I know a lot of guys that are, but if you kind of let loose in the bottom, and they'll cause the pause when it stops. That weight will be on the upswing. So then your transition's a lot easier. That's where Josh, like everybody's like, oh my God, he's benching 630. And he's like, hey, watch this whip. And then he'd slow the video down and you just watch it as you sink in your chest. But coming up with the UPA, Carpenter, and WT Franklin, they never really let me sink into the chest, which different. I mean, you know that.
No, it's different. Yeah.
Age-long debate. So that's where like it was tough for me to try to figure that out, the timing. But
no, but as a lifter, the longer that you're in it, you got to figure all these things out.
Oh, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
They all matter, right? It's a big difference.
100%.
What are some of the obstacles you've had to overcome with the bench?
No, I've been pretty steady on hating it.
Yeah. Well, there's the first obstacle.
Yeah. That's always been the one that I lacked. And then I never made it a priority until, like, when my squat was getting closer to 1,000 was when I was like, hey, if I focus a little bit more on my bench, then make that a priority. My squat will be around the same. That'll get the total that I want. And that's when, like, it's kind of one weekend I did a meet in Kentucky, and it was the last time I ever cut to 308. I cut like 41 pounds. And my dad actually force-fed me Powerade because I passed out at work, and we left the next morning to go to weigh-ins. And I totaled 2,200, only got my openers. JP Carroll beat me, and Brandon Franklin beat me. I was pissed. Mad as shit. Very next weekend, I hit like a 495 bench there. Very next weekend, I went to UPA meet in Iowa because I was still mad as shit. And didn't cut, didn't do anything. Ate my ass off all week and slept. And I hit like 2303. And I benched like 524. And I'm like, body weight matters for bench. That was one of the things I was like, okay, this is where I need to go. And then that was along the same time that Ed started telling me with the upper chest, get your shoulder carry over. You got to hammer out your triceps. And then with the multiply, single ply that I used, that was when I was like, yeah, your triceps got to be wicked to do this. So that's like, okay, stronger your triceps are going to be, better you are. Because I've always had like a narrower grip. My ring fingers on the knurl, but those have been the two things that I don't say obstacles, but two things that I've noticed help a lot with my bench. Yeah, just trying to improve on it. Tendonitis is always going to happen with a straight bar, so working through it's not. It's going to be a chore, but always going to happen.
Well, at the same time, it's very rare that all three lifts are moving at the same time.
Oh yeah, my bench never peaks like my bench or my squat and deadlift do. My deadlift, I can peak my deadlift in 5 weeks, no problem. My squat usually takes around 10. My bench, it's like 15 to 16. To where now I've kind of, this would be my first cycle that I've done this, put a little bit more upper chest into the end of my close grip days to try to get to peak a little faster. Just trial and error type deal.
How are you doing that? What do you mean?
Just incline benching on top of it. Before I would only keep my incline on the off season. Now I threw it in with my peak with my close grip to where I can get that activation a little bit more. Hopefully it peaks, try to get to peak a little faster.
So when you say throw that in there, how's that gonna, is it going to cycle as Ed Coan would cycle it throughout the whole training phase?
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to start higher reps and then peak the same way all the other lifts.
100%. I always want my, like we were saying earlier with the weeks back and forth, my close grip, I want my opener to be my last close grip 7 to 10 days out from a meet. My close grip will be my opener, and that'll be the last bench I hit before the meet. And then even with my back and bicep day, like the last 2 weeks, I'll cut because normally it's 10 sets, I'll go to 5 sets, a little heavier, because I can. I'm stronger than fuck right then.
Yeah.
So, So, I know that's a good time to do it, so why not?
Yeah.
Boom! Let's play the video.
Don't even, we're not going to worry about the breathing in part, but just lock this all in.
Bracing here is hard, which is why it's easier to do on a squat than it is at the bottom of a deadlift, right?